You ever have a show that understands the meaning of hype? What am I saying? Of course we all have. There's just something about hype in a show that gets the blood pumping. When you go on a long journey with an underdog trying to go the distance, that's hype. When you see beautifully crafted, high-flying action, that's hype. When you get a refund on your taxes even though it's not new money, that's freaking hype. There's plenty of shows that fit that category from your DBZs to your X-Men 97s, but one new show has been bringing the hype like that's all it's known its whole life. And I'm telling you now, if this show dies early, I'm sending a bag of dicks to those responsible. It's easy to do. There's services for it. The show that lives and breathes hype is none other than Invincible Fight Girl. This is the art of hype. Or some other related title depending on if YouTube plays me. Created by Justin Gordon Montgomery, I think I said that right. Invincible Fight Girl follows Andy Smith as she fights for her dream to become a wrestler in a world of wrestling. Think Mucha Lucha meets DBZ, but with bird women and heavy on DBZ.
Well, that's sexy.
She's scrawny but scrappy. Where brute strength is her shortcoming, she makes up in cunning and wits. Andy embodies the underdog tale with her sense of perseverance. She started off as an accountant, but that was only her parents' irrational dream. After an attack on her hometown by a group of petty wrestlers called the Perm Gang, she stepped up and fought them off, even if she took a beating to get there.
By way of submission, the winner is Accountant Girl.
No matter how much she gets knocked down, she got back up. You may think you wouldn't root for her since her dream doesn't have dire stakes to them, but no. Her want for her goal and what she's willing to go through for it is what makes her inspiring. It's what makes her hype. Look at these blistered palms. That's passion and drive carved into her hand. She's willing to take the punches and kicks and pile drivers needed to be a wrestler. She takes inspiration from a former wrestler named Casa Poblana, a very powerful wrestler that earns the aspirations.
You're so hot! Ooh!
Andy's inspiration gives her the drive to be as good as her heroes. It's the shonen protagonist story in perfect form. What makes Andy inspirational is the fact that she's not going for the top spot. She only wants to go as far as being a wrestler. The barriers she has to knock down feels achievable. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if some watching this will want to try wrestling out for themselves. It's great that her parents didn't take heavy convincing to let her live out her dreams. Take note, new parents. Too many folks grow up not noticing subtext and lessons beyond just the protagonist. Need people to know how to read, damn it. But anyway, her parents see her ambitions are just like her unnatural passion for accounting.
You're not just gonna be a wrestler. You're gonna be the best wrestler this world has ever seen.
It's enough to make a grown man cry, but not this man. Get back in there, Tia.
Even though she's inspired by her hero Casa Poblana, she learns to be herself in the ring rather than try to be someone she's not. It plays into the hype of her since you want to see how she's going on this journey. The hype is centered around the world Andy lives in, or in this case wrestles in. The world is intriguing with all it being based around wrestling. It calls back to the time when wrestling was basically everywhere in the 2000s like Mucha Lucha. You can get your former superstar wrestler selling peppers, which is normal, to a bird lady, which is also normal. There's unique background characters, all of which tell a story. They play into Andy's story as she sees the sacrifices people go through to reach a dream. I gotta appreciate how they break down wrestling moves. Instead of slowing things down for the sake of explaining to the audience, they have explanations happening during the action. It keeps a good flow to the fight scenes while also giving practical info about certain wrestling moves. It gets the blood pumping by having good tension too. They set the move right so you get invested like you're watching a WWE match and you're just getting the good commentary. The stakes stay high with intense and dynamic shots, which speaks to the animation. They're smart with the animation by eliminating where they need it. It has a lot of techniques borrowed from anime, which, look at this show. Of course it borrows from anime. There's so much influence oozing from this show you would think it would have an identity crisis, but it stays focused to what's important in the fights and to the story, forcing you to lock in as the show locks in. Speaking of locking in, go lock into Awkwardly Animated's video on Invincible Fight Girl. He did an excellent job covering the show's ability to lock into its hype. And after you watch Awkwardly Animated's video, head on over to my Patreon to show some support to the channel. You get early access to videos and get to to participate in raffles for a video on whatever animated show or movie you want me to cover. I already covered stuff like Maya and the Three and Baby's Kids with others on the way. Go to the link in the description to support the channel and get exclusive videos. Also buy some merch, but back to business. In Andy's fights, the hype is real as she goes against opponents 10 times her size. It gets the audience excited to see if she can actually hold her own. The fights play out with a lot of effort on Andy's part to take punch after punch, kick after kick, gut check after gut check. How she's able to hold Fu down is a miracle, but she gets up each time and keeps fighting. You can't help but get caught up in the moment. Even if she loses a match, she earns respect for finishing it.
You're a heck of a wrestler.
And I guess you're a pretty good guy. And Brandon?
But hype doesn't just come from the awesome fights. The build up to the hype is important.
I had no idea, no clue you were in this kind of pain. I've never had anyone fight for me and believe in me like that.
Even though Andy went out on her own, she's not all alone in her wrestling journey. She thankfully has good people in her corner watching her back. Her posse, which is just her manager Craig and a grown boy named Mikey, who is her trainer, keep her in the know about the wrestling world. They give her pep talks whenever she's feeling down or uncertain of her goal. Thankfully, she returns the favor, at least to Mikey, by giving back pep talks to him. As well as fighting for his honor, she sees herself in his want to become a wrestling journalist, so her resolve makes her stand up for him.
You don't even know me! Maybe, but I know it can be scary fighting for a dream no one understands. You don't have to be scared, Mikey.
Her fighting for others inspires people to fight for themselves, whether it be through defiance or fighting back against an oppressive force. And to go on a bit of a side tangent, I love Mikey's sense of journalism. He understands how to be objective in trying to get the full story.
It's an interviewing technique. You give your subject space to talk, then you repeat back to them what they just said, which makes them feel heard.
It's just basic fundamentals that sadly has been lost due to stupidity and MAGA people. MAGA people shall never know peace by me.
Gross.
There's also the Busters that teach a great lesson on giving up and how people accept that they have limits. Even tells her about the problems of only chasing one dream.
The world likes to make giving up seem like the worst thing you can do. But you're not living for the world. You're living for you.
It makes a great point that yes, you have a dream, but it shouldn't be the only thing about you. Because if you're not careful and that dream is taken from you, you feel empty. It's great to see that side of sport that says just because someone gave up doesn't mean they're scum that lost the will to fight. Sometimes you just don't make the cut even though you tried your hardest, and you find purpose in other things. Andy learns a lot from the wrestling world. Different people she comes across help her in her journey as well as help her gain self-determination. It's further emphasized in a later episode where Andy meets two wrestlers who neglected their own daughter for their passion, teaching her about the dark side to her dream. Now, you might be thinking, hey, what does this have to do with hype?
Your mother.
But for real, it slows things down so the hype can feel real. You gotta have the cooldown. Otherwise, the hype won't hit as hard when it's the final glorious moment of victory.
Everything she's done, all expressed in a singular moment.
Andy's story for this season ends on the hypest note, with things coming full circle. She learned a lot through her battles, but one thing that makes her growth stand out is that she did it without a mentor. Kinda. There's not much to say about Queso Poblana since she doesn't really train Andy too much. She at least teaches her about the perfect strike, but even then, she didn't really walk Andy through how to do it. She learned it through fighting. It flips the mentor-mentee trope on its head. Queso Poblana is a crotchety old wrestler disillusioned by the sport. She wants nothing to do with Andy, really, which I can't blame her since she did break into her house twice and gave her a neck injury. Yeah, why was Andy expecting Poblana to help her? But regardless of broken bones, Andy grows more because of her ability to learn and adapt to her situations. Her hype is built around how she's gonna win her matches. She perseveres through it all using her own intuition. When she rematches with the Perm Gang, all the hype is properly built for this moment. The culmination of all that hard work comes into this rematch. She's pressured as the gang outnumbers her. She has the perfect strike ready, but still something is off. She can't execute it. But this one piece of advice from Craig fixes her entire problem.
Of course you're not Aunt P! You think I'd manage her? You're Andy!
I'm not Aunt P?
It brings everything to a head. That important piece of advice saves the day as it's what she's been ignoring in her training all along. She can only fight as herself. Such a powerful revelation that lets Andy execute the move her own way in proportion to her body. She lines up her punch for the final blow, and...
Is that it? That was
Looks like Team Rocket's blasting off again!
She beats the Perm Gang with her perfect strike. You get sucked into the animated crowd cheering. You feel the hype remembering Andy's short but tough journey through those 10 episodes of the season. Better be another coming. All of the pain, all of the blood, all of the sweat, all of the tears shed to reach this moment. You bask in it all as you see this scrappy underdog take her win and her earned glory. And that is the art of hype. But that's just a thought.
Thank you.